What are your thoughts about gender?
Gender is the last remaining polarity that defines our culture that is under
Mm,
siege,
nice.
rightfully so. The problem is that the reality is non-gendered, the actual reality, but the socially created reality of the world that we've built is very much in boxed up and organized. So it's confusing. What do we do?
I
Yeah.
think confusing is a really accurate word when it comes to what we're experiencing right now with gender. I know having a teenager, right? My daughter's 17, she'll be 18. And she said to me about 2 years ago, Mom, I am so unpopular and because I'm being called a homophobe because I'm a white heterosexual female. That was her reason to actually get off of social media, because if she wasn't willing to pretend that she was gay or bi or trans, she actually wasn't going to be accepted into the social circles in Northern California.
Hello and welcome to Diamond Bridges. I'm your host, Irene Diamond. Now is the time for people of all generations to wake up to their true sense of purpose, to embrace their freedom, and to build bridges between the disjointed collective. Join me today as I feature two guests of the Gen X and Millennial generations. Thank you both for joining me for today. What are your thoughts about gender?
Gender is the last remaining polarity that defines our culture that is under
Mm,
siege,
nice.
rightfully so.
The last polarity that defines our culture.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So we are all locked into language. We think in words, we speak in words, we create from words. And words and language, by definition, are limiting the actual reality that we're experiencing. And they create a duality or polarity where there is none because we say so. When we say that one thing is one way and not another way, then we are creating a separation that's not actually there. There is no hot and cold. There is no black and white. There is no boy and girl. There is just whatever this is. And we have an opportunity with the way we use our language to constrict reality or expand it. So Helene, you're talking about where's our sense of curiosity. That is the kind of thoughtfulness and language that would expand. And otherwise,
Lack of resistance.
yeah, and otherwise we have these old outdated ideas of language and boxes that keep us constricted and narrow. And as we've seen time and time again, when people get constricted and narrowed, eventually something bursts. So, eventually.
Like at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, I guess everybody has that political uncle. I don't know.
So what does this have to do with gender?
Well, gender is the building block of our society in many ways. I mean, even marriage is going back so long as the structure, fundamental structure to keep people kind of in check. You know, you got a bunch of single males out there. If you can pair them up with a lady and get them embroiled in that situation, then they're no longer really a threat to society because they're busy. And if you also do that with gender, boys are playing with GI Joes and they're like blue, and girls are pink and they like dresses, then you keep everybody again in their own silos and their own separation, and they have to interact through these preconceived ideas of what is true. If you allow any gender, no gender, non-binary, whatever, if you just remove it from the equation, if you don't even talk about it, then it suddenly doesn't become this hugely defining facet of reality that really is everywhere. I mean, you really can't help but think of boys and girls, men and women, everywhere you go. It's baked in. And yet, I am very excited that we're seeing all of these trans people coming online. I think it's rightfully timed. It makes sense because the universe and nature are showing us, hey, these constructs that you have are no longer relevant. And that's why you also have, I think, a lot of people who are very vehemently opposed to doing away with gender, because that's like the foundation of the reality that they know. And if that goes away, then what the heck is anything? So I understand, I agree. The problem is that like the reality is like non-gendered, the actual reality, but the socially created reality of the world that we've built is very much boxed up and organized. So it's confusing. What do we do?
I think confusing is a really accurate word when it comes to what we're experiencing right now with gender. I know having a teenager, right? My daughter's 17, she'll be 18. And she said to me about 2 years ago, Mom, I am so unpopular and because I'm being called a homophobe because I'm a white heterosexual female. That was her reason to actually get off of social media, because if she wasn't willing to pretend that she was gay or bi or trans, she actually wasn't going to be accepted into the social circles in Northern California. And her friends on the East Coast in New York were experiencing the same thing. And so I think that it's a little bit tricky right now and very confusing. I think for our generation, Eric, it's way more defined. There's kind of like a quietness there for most of us. I'm gay, I'm straight, I'm trans, I'm female, male. But I think that we have some kind of like stillness there, some peace, and therefore expansion inside of that. Oh, yes, I am female, but I also have masculine attributes. I want to explore what that means to understand my masculine energy, although I embody feminine, I identify as she. Whereas I feel like children, teenagers especially, and now even hearing some nieces and nephews who are like 5 coming home and saying, oh, Mommy, did you know I could take a pill and I can be a girl?
Yeah.
Well, that's no good. We don't.
And that kind of indoctrination and is kind of, it definitely leads you to be like, wow, that's very confusing for this nephew. And he, then so it's kind of it's very confusing. I think that's the best word I can use. I don't want to judge it as good or bad, right or wrong. I just think that we're entering into an era, and I love what you said, Eric, because it's so awakened and self-realized. But when I look at kind of a more superficial mass-centric worldview, it's we're heading into a time that's going to shape our future, and I don't exactly know where it's going to go. And I'm concerned about some of the things that I'm seeing, because when I have clients come to me in their 40s who had gender changes in their 20s and they can no longer tolerate the pharmaceuticals, they can't reverse their surgeries. I'm getting way more regret than I am excitement that they were able to change their gender. So I'm concerned. Genuinely.
Yeah. And I want to specify that I'm not pro body altering. I'm just like, let's just let people be whatever they are as is, please. Just let them be whatever. You don't need to change your body. Unless you want to later, which is fine, but definitely as kids, you don't know enough yet.
So, yeah, what do you think about how it's being taught or learned at school? Are you in favor of book bans? What about special programming? Most schools have special programming.
So
right?
I feel like we have a general breakdown of the family unit in general in this country and across the globe, mostly, in Western nations, where we have, the father and the mother are getting divorced, and schools are somehow responsible for picking up the slack to a certain degree, and it's not their role. It's incapable. They're incapable of really picking up the slack for the breakdown of the family, with 2 parents working, and so on and so forth. And this is really the first generation, that we have that. It was my grandmother, maybe yours too, Eric, that, it was taboo for them to work. And so it's really new. And I think that these kinds of matters are really family matters. I don't think that it's up to the school I think it's up to the school to educate children, but I think that that stops at a certain point, and that these are very private family matters. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we have, some would say that we've had a problem with the family structure for a long time, since World War II, where we started having people live in nuclear families instead of larger communities. And because we've separated people from their inherent connection with the broader community, the broader tribe, the broader family, we create that separation, and then we sell people the connection through all of our external things. Oh, you feeling disconnected? Well, that's your fault. Here, get this phone, get this car, get this computer. When in fact, the actual connection that people are wanting and seeking is the one that's innate to the being, which is that we're supposed to be living in a tribe. um, so, and school somehow has become the new tribe, I guess. But there's a lot of issues with the school now, like with the critical race theory stuff. But also, there are parents who are lobbying to have the freedom to teach their kids themselves. And they say, well, I want to homeschool my kids in our own way. We don't like what the school is doing. And I'm like, well, boy, if we go down that road, that means that parents everywhere could be teaching their kids whatever they want. So we could have parents teaching them not about slavery and history. And then what? Now we're going to have a bunch of new kids in society who are not educated about the same facts. But then, are there any facts anyway? So was the school system as it existed previously so great? I don't think so. I'm not going to send my kids to school. So again, see, we keep coming up against these things. And if you really hold your mentality open to see both sides or any side, you'll see that there is no conclusion to be drawn, truly.
No, but I think you hit on a really important point. And Irene, this is something that Eric and I also have in common, is this sense of belonging that's necessary for human existence, and tribal living or communal living. To create that is so critical for our existence and our happiness and our freedom and our joy and our health ultimately. And so much is solved through that, really belonging to a community, and having your place and being able to become more of yourself.
What are your thoughts about gender? That was one of two striking conversations I had with two sets of guests on the Diamond Bridges show. To break it down, I decided to feature two episodes on the topic of gender, one with my Gen Z teenage guests and the millennial guidance counselor, and the other with my millennial and a Gen X mother. The indoctrination is confusing for most of us, but clearly we are entering a new era, and sexuality is shaping the future. Gender is a fundamental building block of each of our identities. It's a fundamental to the reality most of us know. We're seeing a rise in the spectrum of gender expression in a way that challenges our understanding of this polarity. I'm female, but I also have masculine attributes. I want to explore what that means to understand my masculine energy, although I identify as she. Is the way to achieving equality still to empower both of our male and female attributes? Or is equality not really defined by our sexuality? When we say boys will be boys and girls will be girls, can that still be a comforting statement? Is it all right for guys to feel manly and girls to feel pretty? I think sexuality is still a taboo subject, even in the heat of gender transformation. Should we try to educate males and females equally? Perhaps that's not fulfilling a true purpose. What I've learned from my guests in both of these episodes discussing the topic of gender is that the sense of belonging is paramount. Starting at home as a private family matter, and extending to the development of children and the teenage experience in school settings. By providing safe opportunities for everyone to explore the spectrum of their gender expression without pressure to exist in any one binary, we allow the freedom to become their authentic selves. So maybe what we have to learn and what the non-binary experience comes to teach us is how the sense of belonging is necessary for human existence, period. So much is solved through that belonging to a community. having your place, and being able to become more of yourself. Let's accept people no matter how they identify, include them, help them feel like they belong in our homes, around our dinner tables, in our communities, our schools, and places of worship. Bye for now. I'll see you next time on Diamond Bridges. If you like this episode on the topic of gender, be sure to watch the other episode featuring sets of guests on the same topic of gender.